on down this road with me.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Project. This is Speak Up with Tank, and I am your host, Stephen Rowe. And today we are going to be speaking to Michaele Walker, who is going to expound to us on the many areas of very deep and insider research that she has conducted and she's aware of, specifically in reference to the mortgage electronic registration system, and also the ways they're using that to traffic humans and working side by side with various organizations. But one of them is the Child Protective Services that will actually come and take your child for any random accusation. And apparently they put those children on planes to be flown out and do horrible things. So we're going to talk with her today. I'm so excited to have her on. She was a great discovery. She's a patriot and really a soldier in her own right for the cause. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to stand up like that to very prominent forces, and she has done so repeatedly. And apparently, it seems to me that they're afraid of her. So that excites me. Those are my kind of people. So with that in mind, we're going to get started here today. Let me just check and see if Lisa made it on the call yet. Lisa, are you there by any chance? Nope, that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what is current. So what you had happen right away today, which I thought was finally well overdue. The mainstream media is starting to fracture a bit. And Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg on the show, I believe it's called The View, they have gone off on repeated rants, ignorantly citing things and making accusations and swearing and all types of typical daytime television, I guess, where they attack President Trump. And finally, today they were actually censored for their language because they're constantly trying to label Trump as a racist. They're constantly trying to demand that he be impeached. And the reality is that President Trump is not for the Hollywood agenda. And in the Hollywood agenda, they have sculpted the reality. They've used this tool as the mainstream media, that is. They've used this tool as a methodology to completely control the perception and the consciousness, the thoughts, the actions, the words that the public has. And because of that, you can imagine that they don't like a president who's actually outing them and telling the truth about what happened there. So finally, though, ABC stepped up and they shut that down. Now, in other news, you have Attorney General Barr. This came out that he actually came to the president and the president had asked him to get to the bottom of what happened with the investigation, what were the various tactics being used by the Obama administration. And he gave him a pretty broad scope and basically just said, just get to the bottom of it, because they spent 2 years delaying and investigating President Trump to produce a 400-page report that basically said he is not guilty of anything. But it included all types of tertiary information, which is not what normally happens in an FBI investigation, that was not necessary, just to create havoc. And it was, a lot of it was personal, and a lot of it was gossip. And that is directly from sources who have reviewed that. And that was designed to insult his credibility and cause more issues with the president. But the Attorney General, when he went to do exactly what he's supposed to do, which is investigate the current issues, he ran into more roadblocks because they're covering up the crimes committed by the Obama administration, as well as Comey and Hillary Clinton and all of the groups that are anti-President Trump, and they are pro-genocide because they are protecting the United Nations agenda of depopulation. So now the current head of the FBI, he too has been involved in blocking the Attorney General. And these things continue to go on, making it more and more difficult for the Attorney General to get the information that he needs. So that's why 24 hours after that, after Attorney General told the president that he could not get done what the president had asked because he was being blocked, the president then declassified documents, which he has every right to do. He has complete power and authority to do that. And despite that, everyone's up in arms demanding for impeachment. Now, the reason why they're demanding impeachment is because they don't want any more investigation done on their own conduct and behavior, because a lot of Democrats, or they'll call deep state Democrats, because not all Democrats are bad, but a lot of the deep state Democrats are going to be revealed in this, and that's going to lead back to a lot of other crimes, and it'll cause a lot of other investigation into various, many faceted things, including but not limited to exactly what we're going to talk about today, the child trafficking system that runs from the deep state out of Washington, D.C. So that's what I think is most pertinent for today and for today's news. And there's some other things we'll bring up as we go, as we talk to Michelle. Now, I'm just going to check here. Michelle, are you on the line? Michelle is not on the line. So give me 1 second. So I do have people that have called in right now. Number from 678. Who's that? Are you there?
Tank.
No. And hi. Who's this?
It's just me, Julie. I couldn't get it to work, so I had to call in. I don't have a question.
No, that's okay. That's cool. And look, I like to know that people are there. That's fine. You can hang out, Julie. I won't force you to talk.
Thank you.
And who's on the call from 314?
Greetings, Tank. It's Troy, brother.
Troy, didn't you send me a very detailed email today or yesterday?
Not today. No. I didn't send it today or yesterday. It's been a minute when I sent my detailed email.
You're my songwriter. How's my music coming?
Everything's rolling as it's rolling. I got up, set up here. I had to find me some work. You know, with the way things are, I got to get some work in here as well. So I'm getting into this marketing thing here. So it's taking a little bit of my time, but I did come up with a few ideas, but I don't want to throw them at you until I'm able to put a little music to it. So I'm telling you, the intro nights is really gonna be fun. We're gonna make that a fun one.
I love it.
Yes.
So,
but it was the same thing. Something's going on with the system. Blog Talk Radio won't let people get in, so I had to call in. I was going to try to listen online, but it wouldn't allow it to play. So what I did was I went on ahead and opened it up to where I just called in. So that was the whole thing. So I'm with the young lady before. So I mean, I was trying to listen on the other end, but at the same time, I wanted to hear you, so I went on ahead and called in.
No problem. No, I'm glad you told me that. You know, I expect that to happen, you know, with all these different organizations, you know, especially because, you know, Michaele Walker is a formidable, you know, a presence in her own right. So, you know, the combination of bringing this out and organizing that message and bringing people's attention to things that a lot of people are really afraid to admit is true and afraid to talk about. She is definitely, you know, a pit bull as far as I'm concerned. She is, you know, taking on all types of people in ways, to be honest, I've never even thought to pursue, you know, but I'm learning from her, and you know, and I'm like, you know,
that's the whole thing. We have to have the right people in place to support us and push us forward to get us to that experience of stepping out of our comfort zone. I think we all have lost ourselves in this comfort zone of just being idle humans, and this has to stop, because I think everybody, it's like what you always say, I mean, we're all really worthy of doing that we love to do. And in doing that, I think all of us would be happy and be able to explore life to the fullest. You know what I mean? So I'm all for helping people grow within themselves to know what they love to do so that we can progress and move forward and help each other as a community. You know, it takes a village to raise the children, raise a family, to raise a grown man, raise a grown woman. Still takes a village. You know what I mean? So, hey.
Absolutely. We have one job as parents. We got to make sure those kids know how to survive, right? So,
exactly.
Hey, let me ask you, Troy. What do you think about this, Troy? So, Kamala Harris is going off like a crazy person, as usual. I think Kamala Harris has absolutely no credibility whatsoever. It is well known that she, you know, was not elected. She was not brought into the position she's in because she is a formidable speaker. I think it's laughable that she says she's going to be the president. she's out there now, and she was trashing the president again, trying to say that he's committing crimes against humanity because he's separating the children from the parents at the border, when in fact the holding facilities created for just that purpose were created by Barack Obama. And President Trump has gone on record stating that. There's pictures of this. As a matter of fact, even the pictures they show trying to make Trump look so bad, those are from the Obama era. They're not even from this time. And in reality, when you have one person coming up with 8 children, I think it's fair to say those 8 children probably don't belong to that person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that's questionable. But go ahead.
Yeah, right. So what do you think about all that, man? I mean, what do you think's happening?
I think that the structure, period, the political structure is horrible. I try my best to stay away from even being involved in the nonsense that's going on as far as that's concerned. And we got to put it to the truth. All this crap that was going on even before Trump got into office. Like the structure, why would Trump have to be the one to get like our streets and roads back up in proper, where we don't have pit holes in them and crap? I mean, this crap was going on even before he got into office. So to me, it's like I said, the political side of everything is just useless because they're not for the people. It's a bunch of, I was about to say bull stuff, but it's a bunch of bull crap that's going on, and it needs to cease and desist. Like what I said, it should be. I'm looking at it now. Shit. Thank you, President Trump. You just let everybody know. Shit. Everybody can run for president. You let people get in there. Let us all be president of ourselves, so that we can get things right around here. All this foolishness is back and forth about who's doing what and who's wrong. Well, shit. It was like that before Trump even got there. It was a mess before he got there. And now that he's there, you're trying to push him off as doing wrong this, wrong that. He's doing this wrong. Well, hell, at least he's trying to get shit done. Excuse me, I'm saying that too many times. Excuse me, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. You're good. We're in this incredibly complex, controversial state at the moment, right? And the real war is with the Rothschilds or the Dragon families, right? And currently, the plan was that you would have a peaceful transition from our slavery under the Black Dragons to our slavery under the dragons of the Chinese families in the East, right? And that's always been the real peaceful transition of power. So that's not happening, right? Because finally, on some level at least, there's some exposure, and you have a president who's fighting for the people, right? Now, people might not realize this, but, this is the first time in our lifetime that we've actually had a chance at freedom. Because our actual sovereignty right now is available, right? That is on the table. The American sovereignty is here. Now, believe it or not, we've always been nothing but a sub-sovereign. We've always just been a very limited corporation with very limited laws and rules that operated under UCC guidelines, right? So the Universal Corporate Code is basically something that has been in operation around the entire world. All governments, all businesses, they all recognize the same set of laws. It's contract law. And they're constantly conning us into signing away our rights. So now, I think what is missing a bit is because you don't have a mainstream media presence that is actually advocating for American sovereignty or for human liberation, for that matter. And because you don't have a strong enough presence actually getting the truth out there, the problem is that people are making decisions based on very limited data sets, right? At very least, the people should have an equal voice that is telling the truth if we're going to continue to allow these organizations to perpetually just spew out lies, right? So it's one of my very first issues that I plan to address when we make this effort to go truly live, really to get this out there. There's a couple of things that are if you look at how to change the world, right? There's some things that we have to really consider. Right now humanity has been in this process our whole lives, right? So we've waited our whole life for this moment in reality, right? Now, there might be a future where we're not using money, somewhere in the future, right, where we're trading goods or whatever it is, right? But right now you have an influence on humanity that really isn't for humans, right? And they're trying to destroy the very natural, innate, instinctive nature of human beings to love their offspring, right? So Kamala Harris, the banshee that she is, she's out there really trying to promote and trying to say that we need to predict. They now want to make abortion a federal issue, or states don't even have a say. Which, if they're taking away the state rights, they're taking away your rights too, right? But what's amazing is back in 1974, when Roe versus Wade took place, right, and like Joe Biden came out and was really staunch, thinking that decision by the Supreme Court had gone too far. You know what the issue was back then? It wasn't a question of whether or not the woman had control of her body or that it was a woman's choice. It was the man has a choice too. Can you imagine trying to bring that discussion up? I mean, you want to talk about men being attacked. You couldn't even, as a man, say today that you had a choice in abortion at all. You're not even allowed to discuss it, right? Because as far as anyone's concerned, if a man gets a woman pregnant and she doesn't want to be pregnant, he's damaged her, right? He's hurt her. I'm talking about it, and not to say there isn't damage, but with non-consensual sex. But if people have consensual sex, the woman and the man are both involved in that decision. Now, if she gets pregnant, the man. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, but nobody wants to talk about that, right? No one wants to talk about, does the man have a say? Because that would get booed out. I mean, I would get booed out of court if I ever brought that up, right? That the man has a say, because the woman has taken absolute possession of her body. But Joe Biden, back in 1974, he was saying, no, the woman's body is not just her own. Joe Biden, scumbag, creepy, all over, 10, 11, 12-year-old girls, Joe Biden, who, we're all going to, these people like Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg jumped in this guy's defense, right? While he's demolishing the minds and the youth of these young girls, right? And by the way, that stuff is 1,000% real, right? Nobody wants to bring the evidence out into a real courtroom because, God forbid, you wreck the minds of everybody who they realize that these people they have trusted are complete pedophiles. But Joe Biden's been an active participant in that all along. It's part of the whole secret society. It's the reason why, Joe Biden basically owned Delaware, So it's amazing to me that they want to attack, they want to go after Trump but what are they supporting? They're supporting the demoralization of all humans, right? Just of all humanity, right? They want to emasculate the men. They want to take away what is natural for us in what it means to love, to be kind, to be generous, to be able to trust, right? They want to break the heart of humanity. We can't let it happen, man. We just can't let it happen.
Not at all. Because I go back to what you were talking about the other day. I mean, when it comes to sex, people, come on, let's be clear. It takes two to tango. If you say yes and he says yes, either put protection on to ensure that nothing happens from that so that it won't be an issue of abortion or anything of that nature, or just don't do it at all. Hell, you can put a hand in there, fingers in there, and make it feel good if you need to, but just don't do it. You know exactly what sex will cause. Sex can cause a baby if you do not use any protection. And it can cause also multiple diseases in your body. So these are things that you need to be thinking about prior to jumping in the bed and saying, hey, come on. Now, when it comes to somebody being taken advantage of and stuff, I think they should have the right to do what the hell they need to do. That's a whole different story, because nobody should be taking advantage of anybody in the first place. But when it comes to sex, it's consensual sex that you're having. And when you do it, you know that you got a potential of being pregnant. Do something about it. Make sure that won't happen. Men and women can handle this in a proper way. Become adults. Don't do this. Don't be ignorant and just, hey, let's just lay up and just do the damn thing. And then all of a sudden, I got to worry about cutting something out of my body or destroying something that comes across my body because I'm not responsible. It's all about us being responsible individuals. That's what it's all about. Everybody needs to take the time to stop blaming everybody for every damn thing and look in a damn mirror and recognize that everything that's coming to you is a creation of your own. You need to recognize right in your own household, because it's about the inner self. That inner self is trying to grow and trying to process and become. And while we're sitting up here allowing all this crap out here to create a feeling like all this that I'm dealing with out here, they did it to me, they did it to me. No, we've done it to ourselves to the point to where we can recognize what it is and start creating from it. Let's start creating our reality and stop living as if we're these Robocons that have to do what somebody else tells them to do. Whatever. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
I'm done, brother. I know.
Yes, indeed. Look, brother, you go ahead and preach. That's good. Now, I'll tell you, like this is what I say all the time, is I think that men and women have a choice as to whether or not who they are with. Men and women have a choice as to whether or not they have protected or unprotected sex. Men and women have these choices on who, on a regular basis, like how often they take that risk. Now, once they are, pregnant, or once a woman gets pregnant, I still agree that before a certain time, I still don't even think before a certain time. If you took the opportunity, if you said, well, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen, you don't do that. Because again, even if something starts growing in you, that I get what people are saying. Well, this is a life that's being created within you. That's your body trying to create something that will give life. If you don't want to deal with that, it shouldn't be a question after the fact. If you don't want to deal with it right then and there, let's stop it right there. I don't want to do it. I don't want to make it happen. Now, when it comes to the point that you're starting to create that, you done already made the decision that you want to have that child. To me, that's what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? But again, if somebody's been taken advantage of, to me, that's a whole different story. But for you to just go in there and be like, oh, something's growing now. Well, let's see. Should I keep it? Should I not? You should have took care of the situation at the start, that you didn't have to make this jacked up decision to whether you can tear something out of your body or leave it there. Uh-oh. Hello? Yep. Well, I do agree. So what I say is that I'm there's a time to make a choice, and I am pro-choice. And as for me, I choose life. But in this particular discussion and argument, men don't have a choice. So, Troy, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Much love to you. Have a great day. And I'll be listening in.
Cool. 571, you are on the call. Who's there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. Hi.
Hey. You know who this is?
I don't know who this is. Who is it?
Oh, my God, you don't know who this is.
Who is it?
I'll give you a hint. I'm a gangster fairy.
Oh, Sid. Hey, what's up?
Yes. Sorry, I was listening in because they blocked all the online show entries, so we couldn't listen in online, so I had to call in. So, yeah, you got me online here on the phone.
Okay. Well, hang out for a minute, then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see. I'm not sure who. We've got so many callers. I got to figure out who's who. Let's see who this is.
I know. I'm sorry. There's no way to tell you.
It's okay. 403. Who's this?
This is Rita, and I'm doing exactly the same thing because we were blocked.
No problem, Rita. I will let you listen in peace. No problem. Well, Sid. So I guess I seem to get pulling everybody on the call except for actually Michelle. So I might have to you might have to give her a text for me.
Yeah, we'll make sure she gets in. All right, just hold on. Yep. I'll get her on. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So everybody who has bypassed the block from Blog Talk Radio, we will take that up with them. I'm sure they're going to have some brilliant excuse as to why that they are trying to not let our tiny little show thrive. But truth be told, we are going to be talking about these things today because, these are controversial issues, but only because there's the human aspect and the anti-human. Anybody who has the full scope of what's taking place in the world right now, they will be very in tune. I can tell you today that I wrote a very detailed letter to Kim, basically telling her why it's so. I mean, not that she doesn't know, but I just felt like, just in case, I want to put it down on the record that kind of where I stand. These are issues that need to be taken care of right now, that the money needs to be allowed to come in. Kim did inform me that it's still the Rothschild Dragon families that are preventing this from taking place. Now, this money, for those of you who don't know, this money is for project funding, and these are projects that benefit humanity. So you basically have a situation we're in right now where the battle is between those who are for the people and those who are against the people. And even though the people that are anti-human, they look like people and they act like people, they are promoting all of these different things which basically destroy the natural love we have for our offspring, our natural desire to be with someone of the opposite sex or just to have a real relationship. They're trying to destroy the family structure. In addition, they've got us all held hostage with money, so they're controlling the mainstream media. So they are literally controlling what we think is real, what we believe to be true, what is the message out there by controlling the mainstream media. They are also putting fluoride in our water. They are putting, which is a known poison. You can back that up by looking at your toothpaste and seeing that it says it's poison, and if you swallow it, that you should call poison control. You can also see it's also was used as an industrial waste, right? It was industrial waste that was killing the environment, and they were ordered to create methods to get rid of it. And when they got rid of it, they had these filters that sucked up all the fluoride. And what do you do with that? Of course, you put it in the drinking water. Well, of course not. That's the most ridiculous thing anyone has ever heard. I can't stop talking about it because it's so obvious, and it's dramatically affecting people's ability to function. They take fluoride and put it in our water. Then they take GMOs, and they infect all of our food with GMOs that limit nutrients, and they actually cause various issues of infertility, as Lisa Thompson told us yesterday. And that is profound when you think about it. Then they're taking chemicals that are really soft metals that they're spraying into the air to create a layer that blocks out the sun, but it's not to prevent global warming. It's actually designed to prevent us from absorbing the natural rays and the good things from the sun that are good for our bodies. Now, believe it or not, there is even the most organic version of sunscreens, and almost all of them, there is a few ingredients that you can look at all of them, and I went through about a dozen of them on Monday, and they are, not only are they carcinogens, they're carcinogens that are specifically activated when they come in contact with the sun. Now imagine how tactical that is to take the things that you're putting on your body to protect yourself, and you're going out in the sun with it so you can be safe in the sun, and it's actually causing the cancer that we're trying to prevent. Now, that pretty much sums up the mode of operations for the entire deep state. They lie to us and tell us that things are good for us, and they're so healthy. That's why they talk about health care and say we all need health care. Health care is so important. And then what do they do with health care? Well, they use it as a weapon against us. They take health care and they turn right around and they use it as a way to force us to use drugs that are creating all types of other conditions. And you don't have any drug on the market anywhere that is the cure for anything. So think about that. There's not a drug that cures anything. Not a single pharmaceutical cures anything. All pharmaceuticals are superpowered molecules, basically, that essentially treat a condition. And so what they do is they'll look at a symptom and they'll address that symptom. And then in addressing that symptom, they make that this exaggerated, new condition in your body. I compare it to if you took a 5-year-old who lost his arm and you took an arm from like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right, and you put it on that 5-year-old. That 5-year-old might have the strongest, most diesel right arm in the world, but it's going to throw his spine out of balance. It's going to make him dependent on things. Everything in that kid's body is going to be messed up because of this one superpowered arm, right? and he's going to have more health conditions than if he just learned to operate without an arm at all. Now, essentially, that's a ridiculous, hyperbolic example, but that is what pharmaceuticals do to your body. They cause you, they create new conditions that exist in your body because of what's happening, right? So they take a molecule in your body and they make it function so that it can get by, but it never addresses the real issue, right? I think a good example of this is blood thinners, right? Blood thinners basically make the blood kind of slippery so the blood cells can slip through. But the reason why there's an issue with the blood getting through is because the plaque that is built up, the atherosclerotic plaque, I have such a hard time saying that word, that exists in the body, and that builds up in the arteries. Now that is being built up in part by fluoride, right, and various aspects of our diet as well. But probably even with the diet, it's because of the GMOs. So instead of addressing the plaque, because everybody's afraid to break up plaque, right? Like things like niacin break up plaque, but they're worried about it breaking up the plaque because it doesn't do it naturally. So they create a new fear of like, oh, if you break up the plaque, it'll cause a stroke, right? But the plaque that builds up can be broken up very easily. Very easily. You use things like borax, right, which is like a detergent. You can take a teaspoon of that and put it in a liter of water and drink it all day for 5 days a week, and it will actually help break up the plaque that's in your arteries that causes Alzheimer's, that prevents us from, accessing our pineal gland and really having a more abstract and complete understanding of the world. All this, imagine that's so simple. Borax costs $5.49. It's one single ingredient, right? They don't put it on there like it's, to be consumed. That's how they stay in business. But we know better. We know that you can use it that way. As a matter of fact, I'm drinking it right now, because it helps us think more clearly. It helps our bodies operate more effectively. And these things are out there, and we have to really start getting to people and try to make people healthier on all levels, right? And if we make people healthier on all levels, they'll be able to make better decisions. They'll be more informed. All of these studies and the way that they, we've discussed this week already, the issues with healthcare, but also the frequencies that they're broadcasting in, right? This 440 frequency that they've changed everything over to broadcast out in. They made this the standard way for sound to be transmitted. Well, there's nothing in nature that resonates or that vibrates at a 440 frequency. So it's proven that if that's the case, your body's not going to respond well if you don't have access to that. If you don't have access to what your body needs, if your body is surrounded by a vibration that is negative and not healthy for it, you're not going to thrive. Who's this? Hello?
And perhaps you could also inform Cabinet that my husband and I intend to stay here at the current house.
You never know who's going to jump on our call. So there's plenty of ways and reasons and things we can do to actually live healthier lives right now, right? And I think we're in a state where we have to start calling these things out for exactly what they are. There is many, many, many issues taking place in the world today, but they all revolve around the same agenda, right? It sounds like such a pleasant thing, the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. It sounds so nice. Who wouldn't want to develop sustainably, right? But the reality is they start out with an inaccurate premise, right, which goes back to the original data that was done to research the environment. And in this, they researched the environment, and there was no global warming. But when it was presented, after it was submitted and it was manipulated, came back out that there's global warming, and we had till the year 2000, and who knows what's going to happen, and it was urgent, and they tried to create this global enemy of the people, which is the environment itself. Now, this was mapped out all the way back in 1967 in the Iron Mountain Agenda, where they discussed how to create a peaceful society. And they were not supposed to use any morality. Now, in this peaceful society, it's only peaceful for those in control. And in this, part of the agenda is instead of war, you have to create an enemy that we could all fight against, which in this case, one of them is the environment, one is the economy, And they set out to do this, right? They also added in there, like, to make this society work, you'd also have to have slavery. That's why we're subject to debt slaves, right? We're all subject to this debt. And right now they're playing this out in front of us, and we've been up against, fighting against the realistic possibility, so to speak, of the global currency reset. And everybody that was involved with the global currency reset basically thought we were going to buy currency that was undervalued in war-torn countries where they had gone in and waged war and diminished the value of the currency, essentially making them limited in their options, the people there. Vietnam, Zimbabwe, Iraq, this was common. And Iran is another one, right, where they were controlled by these various elite forces, which over the past 100 years or so, it's presented in many cases as the United States of America, but in reality, it's always been the United States of America was just part of one larger dragon family, as the corporation itself. They've just been, used that way by them and given different reasons to fight and basically spread the empire. And there was an infinity agreement that basically allowed the United States to be in control for the past 100 years, and that is transitioning, and they're trying to turn over power, not to the people, but over to the dragon families of China. And that's why we're in this transition right now, and why we're fighting, because we as the people are fighting to take our own power back. So this is the battle that we're all facing right now. This every single day, this is the choice that we have in front of us, and there's no real way around that. We have to recognize that this is what's taking place. And Sid, you told me that Michelle's coming on. She's not here yet. Just FYI. Sorry. So the battle is for humanity, right? The battle is for us to be liberated, to be free. Now, we don't have that. Contrary to popular belief, if, as an American, you don't have that. And what you're seeing right now is the implementation of absolute socialism, right? And all socialist societies end up in some perverse version of dictatorship and suppression of the people, right? And that's what you're seeing with Venezuela right now. There has never been a socialist society that thrived. Now, the thing is, though, they've implemented all of these aspects of socialism into our society, right, that we all benefit from and we're used to. The highways, the roads, the bridges, the schools. These are all socialist techniques. But if you look at it, they've used them to completely manipulate the narrative all the time. Schools are indoctrination, absolute indoctrination to train people to act a certain way. They've perverted the history. You can go back to the 80s before they implemented standardized testing, and you can look at the history books from then to now. They're totally different. The use of standardized testing has been, if you're going to use the exact same standard to measure everyone's intelligence, of course you're not going to get an accurate version of what intelligence looks like, because you're going to be looking at it from a standpoint of, this is the standard, and we're using this standard to judge who people are. And you just really can't do that, because people are infinitely different. It's what makes people so amazing. And if we take everyone and measure them by the exact same standard, well, of course, you're going to have different, such a broad, varying, diverse group being measured by the same standard. How could you measure by the same standard? It's not even possible, because everyone's different. Howard Gardner, professor out of Harvard, he examined this through the study of multiple intelligences. And he defined all these different aspects of the human mind, saying, well, some people are naturally mathematic and logical, and some people are artistic, and some people are musical, some people are social, interpersonal intelligence, all these different things. And then he said, and there was an infinite number of ways that people are incredibly intelligent, and it's expressed, right, through various methods, means, and objectives. So it's impossible to judge everyone by the same standard. So, but in the world that has been kind of created all around us, we've had those things taken from us. The opportunity to be intelligent and make a living, for example, as an artist, is nearly impossible. It's very, very rare for someone to find a successful career as an artist. I know growing up I had a dream of being a cartoonist, and I wanted to have my own comic strip and my own comic books and things, and I did. I had a pretty good comic strip, but even as I started to pitch it and I started to talk to other comic strip writers, I realized, like, oh my gosh, none of these guys make any money. I thought they were all rich. I had no idea, but they couldn't even make a living. They were constantly producing material, but it was really hard to keep them syndicated and keep people engaged and interested, and it was very few of them that actually made a decent living doing it. That was pretty small level, right? But even with that, you don't know many people who actually do it. People who just work as artists selling their paintings. I lived for 6 months of my life as a starving artist. I was selling paintings, and I would make just enough money selling a painting to pay like one bill, and then like paint one more picture, buy more supplies, and but I never could have survived for long. I couldn't have done much. Musicians are constantly compromised. Just trying to make a living. It's not really possible for them to. I mean, it's possible for some, but it may be more common than artists, but it's just very rare. But we've also limited what it means to be creative to those aspects, right? There's all types of ways to be creative. But the way our society is set up is there's standards because they want you to go work for someone else. What we don't encourage as much, what we don't build as much, is entrepreneurs who are actually encouraged to develop brand new ideas, brand new methods, brand new ways to be great and produce great products. We've done away with a lot of the individually or smaller owned businesses that are, very common, that should be very common, right? The local hardware store and things of that nature. We've done away with those things. And, we basically turned it over to Walmarts and Home Depots and franchises. So these franchises come in. You'll notice it's very rare that someone who owns a large franchise ever lives in your neighborhood. They don't live with you. They're not there to support you. They're not trying to, support the local economy. They don't really bring wealth there. They just bring cheaper goods, which eventually equal out to about the same prices. So that's the world that we have been saddled with, right? So I've got all of these people on the line right now, and I'm going to start to see if any of you have something to say. So while you're all here, I'm just going to start calling on you, and you feel free to tell me that you don't have anything to say, you're just listening. But I figure at least while you're here, I'd like to rather talk to you than hear myself monologue. So right now, let's see. 510, you have something amazing to say? 510? By your dead silence, I'm going to take that to mean no. What about 313? Hello? Hello, I can hear you. 313? Gone. 754, are you there?
Oh, hey, it's Lane.
It's
Can
who?
you hear me, Jay? It's Lane.
I can hear you. Hey, Lane.
It's Lane.
What's going on?
Hey, how
Yes.
are you doing? I'm glad
Lane,
to be
so what's
on,
happened?
but I did call to listen, but I'm happy to chat with you.
Well, please stick around and chat with me because I hate to hear myself monologue. I have a lot to say, but I just would rather get feedback along the way. So let's see, Lane.
Well,
So
I want
we're
you
missing
to know
Michelle.
that we're hunting for her. She's not answering her phone. The email I sent out this morning went through, but the one I just sent now came back to me as undeliverable.
Uh-oh.
So the hunt is on. Let's surround her in light and hope everything's okay.
Well,
Because
let's hope
everyone's
she is
blocked.
okay.
Yeah, the whole crew is blocked from listening. No one can get
Really? Wow.
on. Yep.
That's amazing.
The sound is blocked.
Yep.
I tried it on 4 different browsers, shut down my computer, did it again, did the phone. The Blog Talk, it appears to be playing, but there's no sound.
Wow, that's not too good. Well, I guess we'll figure it out. I know they took yesterday's show, and some people were telling me they couldn't find it. Whenever they'd go to play yesterday's show, it would show up as the show the day before. So that's okay. We'll figure it out. I just brought is 316. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
who's this? Did you have something to say?
This is John. My name is John.
Hey, John.
Hey, can you hear me? Hey.
I can. It sounds like you're being assaulted by giant bees, but go ahead, man.
Oh, is there feedback?
Just a little bit. You're okay. Go ahead, man.
Let me remove the headset so on the phone while I'm online.
All right. Hang on, man. I'll come back and get you. Oh. Yes,
Hello?
John, that was better for me. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead, man.
Okay, yeah. It's giant bees must be the headset. Yeah, I mean, Lane just touched on the whole reason I called in because I couldn't hear you on the website. Just wanted to make sure that you knew that there was something weird going on. But since I have you on the line, I feel you with the starving artist thing. I tried 4 or 5 years in New York doing that, and that really bit my butt.
Dude, you know the only time I was really able to kind of pull it off is right after the towers fell, right? I wanted to do something, and so I painted firemen for 6 months straight. But
yeah, that'll do it.
It was a struggle.
Hey,
It was a struggle.
Hey, Hank, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So I just got word from an intermediary that Michelle's power went out, and that we're trying to get her on now.
See, I love it. Just so you know, we're having an impact. The cabal had to take out the power of all of wherever she's at. That's right.
I love it.
Punks. We got you. So, yeah, John, what kind of artist are you, man?
Woodworker, but also visual artist in some ways, many ways. But no, fine woodworking, which is a rare thing, except in the small niche furniture market. That's especially there. A lot of time goes into something that, you might be able to sell it for 1 or 2 or 5 or 7,000. Who knows? Depends on what it is, but a lot of time goes into it. And there wasn't much of that to be had in New York. I ended up building more fashion shows and window displays, which are detailed work, but fashion shows last for 7 minutes, and then you get to throw it all away. So it was kind of not all that satisfying.
Man,
not to mention, I learned what fashion world is,
Oh, yeah. Right. That's right.
Hey, I wanted to mention, as part of the media project, we're planning on creating artist hubs where artists can be given a free rein to create and not have to worry about bills or food or, bowing to an agenda, so that not only can we create a constant supply of people to help us out, but we can recreate artist colonies. We're giving, we're allowing artists to live once again, whether they be musicians, painters, writers, actors, directors, even, any kind of poets. What about poets? What happens to poets in our society, So we hope to bring all that back. Not hope, we are going to bring all that back and create a thrive. I mean, what is culture without art?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's part of the plan.
You know what, Lane, and with that, I keep expanding that concept, right? Because we have a lot of people who want to build, what to me I feel like could sound a little hokey if we don't kind of mainstream it. And I really want to make these their own cities, right? And they're going to be. I see exactly how to do it, because we're going to bring in, we'll be able to set these things up completely off the grid, right? And what I'm proposing to Kim is that we create these high-speed monorails that go from one community to the next all across the world, right? So these communities will be the most sought-after place to live in. They'll be the most beautiful, because we're going to make, bring in real artists, and I appreciate woodworking, man. I'm a sculptor, and I know, like, real, and I'm not to that. I'm also an illustrator, so I understand, like, when you're doing real woodworking, it's so detailed, and to do it right is so tedious to do it perfectly. I love that. And matter of fact, I love to bring you back to New York because I'm big on, like, personal vindication for people. I'd love to bring you back to New York and help us design all the woodwork in the whole Create Change headquarters there in the city. So
that's an option.
Yeah, man.
That's an option. Yeah. I mean, I'm torn on what to do next. I'm in a holding pattern in Kansas, and I close with the Thomas's THI group, and I've got a garage full of machinery that, it's all I need now to remodel houses out here. Doing what I do full time is my car. I just work for somebody else and nail 2x4s together. It's just. I'm trained as an architect, which I thought was interesting. Kim mentioned that was her schooling and went into totally different realms, and that's kind of, like I said, holding pattern. I don't know what to do with myself.
Well, dude, I want to build these communities, right? There's this beautiful space of land that is like prophesied that Lane, who's on the call right now, is going to buy, and we're going to work with some of the Lenape. Is it Lenape, Lane?
Yes, God willing, yes.
The Lenape Indians, and I want to take this beautiful, massive property, right, and build architecture that is just organic and kind of just works exactly with the existing landscape that's there. So I'm just saying.
There's no other reason to build. You went into the mention of standards and franchises, and then furthermore codes and so on. I mean, I just saw a deck today on a very nice house as far as out here goes. This is not even 15 years old. In the staircase, with one hand, you can wobble the whole thing. So we got to rebuild it, of course. But that's 15-year-old staircase on probably $500,000 house out here, which is a lot for out here. And it's just it's nonsense. That's what comes from Home Depot and built to code. It's not, and you can hardly fit fine woodworking into code. There's no time or whatever. But if people are given, like my mom will always tell me, "Oh, Johnny, everybody's an artist. Everybody's an artist," and they are. If they're given time, people will find the beauty in what they're doing and want to spend, more time in detail. And the digger you deep, the more you're fascinated by it. But if it's all about just getting projects behind you, job done, next job done, next job, or, like Fashion World, just throw it away, it's not nonsense. That's just no good.
I agree, because everything gets monetized, all the beauty of it, right? I remember one of my professors told me, he said, don't make this your career. Not because I couldn't. He said, don't make it your career because you'll hate it. He said, and he always said, like, you love what you do. He goes, and I want you to love it. And I'm just like, well, I'm spending like $100,000 on school. I feel like I got to use it to get a job. But but now in hindsight, I think about it like my artwork has been my therapy. It has been my escape. It has been, I still make furniture and build things, with my kids. It's been a way for me to bond with my children. And I always have this dream of building everything, all the fine details in my own restaurant with character too, and completely different than what anybody would tell you is appropriate to turntables. To find a way to keep that kind of a business that's just beautiful in its own right. Right. As a piece of art.
It wouldn't be
from beginning to end.
You need to be organized in order to have a business plan of sorts that makes sense. But this is something that just blew my mind, thankfully, after leaving New York. I mean, I kind of took a while for the wind to come out of my sails and settle down. And then I came into realizing, why nothing lined up. The information Thomas puts out really kind of, and yourself as well, we know there's corruption, but the degree to which this doesn't make sense and why no one is able to just genuinely be creative and not fall flat on their face.
Right.
It's a shame, but
that's so true.
There's a lot of hope for that because, the amount of money and funds that goes into a bunch of nonsense is outrageous. But if that goes to the people, like we're talking about with the trust, there's a bright future ahead. We're not dead yet, and we can really climb out of this hole with some beautiful things like you're talking about. No detail unaccounted for.
Yeah, man. Life is art. Life is art. It is a nonstop creative process that we're creating. And if you can just get people to realize how much they, man, there's a really unique organization that is an association. It's a business association or a trade association, I guess, and it's made up of surgeons or doctors and artists, right? Now, most people wouldn't connect those two fields, right? Because they'd be like, why would those two be together? And the reason why those groups are in one conglomeration, right, one association together, is because it used to be that physicians, to really understand the anatomy of the body, they would force them to draw every single part of the human anatomy in great detail, the way like Leonardo da Vinci did, right? Now,
I got one of those
know
books.
this,
it's
I'm
really
sure. Yeah, I love Da Vinci. I love Da Vinci because he drew what was ugly too. I just love that about him. So, but the whole point is that what an artist really is not someone who can necessarily draw or sculpt or paint. It's someone who can see, right? And when you can see, you can't help but create because you see things that people aren't even paying attention to.
Right.
It's funny about the whole seeing thing. I was an art major for a while. I put myself through school, so I had the beauty of majoring in everything that I wanted to major in. So I had no one to answer to but myself. So for a few semesters, I was an art major, and I was taught the drawing class. You take a drawing class, and you're like, I know how to draw. No, it was a whole process of seeing and not seeing what you were conditioned to see. So it was a matter of deconstructing what the paradigm was that you thought was in front of you, and seeing what was actually there and interpreting it. And therein lies the art, is in your interpretation and your sharing.
That's it.
Yeah. So ever since then,
that's exactly what it is.
Exactly. I think I learned more in my art classes than virtually anything else. But one thing that I was able to do was once you learn how to not see, you can teach anyone else to draw. So, when I would run into kids who said, I can't draw, my art teacher says I stink, I can't, it's awful. You would teach them how to draw, which is basically not drawing. You're seeing the negative space. Yeah. So it's very cool.
What do you say, John?
It's the opposite.
It reminds me of, and this gets into some of the weird science stuff that I've put a lot of research into. Once upon a time, had to build fancy luxury tables with a lot of magnets, and had people asking me, what are magnets? How do they work? I realized there was a gap in my master's level training. So I dove into research, and one of the characters that you'll find in the electrical sciences and fluid dynamics is Victor Schauberger, and he says, observe and copy nature. It's one of his little short gems. And that, he was a woodsman. I think it was in, it's not Sweden, I forget, no, Austria. And in his later years of his life, the end of the World War II, they used him for their science endeavors, and then co-opted him over to the United States and basically killed him and took his research. And but anyway, he had just so much time. That's what a lot of this indoctrination education stuff is. And inside concrete buildings built like cinder block buildings built like prisons is exactly that. It's more detachment from that, so you lose that case of wonder and very quickly realize or are convinced that the only thing to wonder about are pretty little pieces of paper that smell like junk. But the real beauty, I couldn't believe it today, seeing that staircase on a deck. I'm like, this is the state of craft. We how can nobody else see this? I can't get it. But
man, my father-in-law is a cabinet maker from Romania, right? And at 80 years old, when he was 80 years old, we had the house dormer, right? And he walked into the room, and the wall was a quarter of an inch off at the very top, and he could spot it with his eye. It was amazing, you know, because he was so meticulous in the way he did things, right? And he taught me so much. You know, and I mean, I'm like, you know, I'm scrappy. Like I love old scrap metals and scrap wood, and I love to, you know, refinish things and bring them back to life and give them new purpose. But I mean, he's just incredible in his skill. So I appreciate that so much. You're right. There's the lost art of being a skilled craftsman, right? Because they don't want that, you know, the things that are harmonized with nature. You know, it's designed so that we just produce, right? And to produce more, we need to consume more. That's why we're just useless eaters in their mind. So,
and the planned
I think like
obsolescence plays into that too.
I'm sorry,
the planned obsolescence just keeps us busy. But go ahead, Lane. Sorry, carry on.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just quickly, Michelle, apparently the storms were real bad as of an hour ago, and I don't know that we're going to get her tonight.
That's okay. That's the purpose for today. Luckily, I have you guys on. So I'm going to see who else is on here. And John, hang out, man.
Please.
You got a lot of good things to say. Sure. Second. All right, 646. Who's this? This is no one. Okay. I think. No, I'm not going to go through everybody. So, let me check this one quick. 630.
Blessings. Hi. How you doing?
Blessings. Who is this? Kevin?
Yes, it is. I'm trying to get a hold of Michelle, and I cannot get a hold of her. I talked to her a little over an hour ago. She said that she was having bad storms and was knocking out the Wi-Fi. I told her to try and call in, and so and I've been trying to call her. Go straight to voicemail.
It's all good, man. Hey, did you get a chance to hear? We talked to Tui on Friday. Did you get a chance to hear that?
Yes, that I did. So I was really excited about that. That was really awesome.
Yeah, man. You really expounded on some deep stuff.
Yeah, I can't believe knowing exactly how emotional he got, because it was an exact reflection of how I was when I was in Fiji, and it's part of the healing, and it's part of the amazement, and we are actually in a time that literally just pulls and tugs at your heartstrings, that is of actual amazement that we are here and going forward and creating it, and it's happening, and man, it just tugs at your heartstrings to know that we are really going to be the generation, the group, the people that actually create and spawn a new, loving world that is actually going to do all the things that we've ever dreamed of. You know, like helping people out, watching the children grow up prosperously, watching things change from worse to better, kind of like how they clean up the garbage and you see the beaches and the planting of the forests, and how, like, you know, we never even imagined that 30 years ago that we could have made an impact. But you see those people that just believe it, and they've actually done it as single individuals. And now we sit back in amazement, you know, like in India and parts of Pakistan and stuff like that, where they've been able to regrow forests, and South America.
Wow.
So I'm just being amazed by where we're going to go, and how that really just touches. And I really felt strong with Tui really centering in on just how it's all coming together, and with him and Kim, and just everyone working so hard to drive the passion in their hearts to push this to the level of where it's going to go and where it's going.
Yeah. You know, it's you know, Kim hit me up and followed up after the interview and was asking me how it went. And you know, she's had to really stay behind the scenes, right? Because they take, you know, if anybody doesn't know, like a year and a half back, like February 2018, I did I had a conference call with Kim, right? And we interviewed her, and somebody took it and put it on YouTube, right? And then there was another group who added to it, right? They added, and they took her voice and pieces of her voice, and they added to her voice, and they made it seem like she was saying other things. So the original version of it, right, is like, I forget now, but I think it was like 93 minutes, and theirs was 96 minutes. And they added these statements of her saying, like, crazy things, right? And then what they did is they took that video and they sent it out to every bank in the world to try to make it so she couldn't get money out. So it's, she's done a couple things since then, but, very limited. Like, I'm sure she'd be much more public because she's very impressive when you actually hear her talk, and she has virtually perfect recall of almost everything.
She's got the solution and the answer and the missing piece and the intel, the information that we've ever pondered upon, that we've always been missing and searching for, and just clicking it in, and you just answer it, and she's right there on the drop of a hat, and she's on top of it, sharp as a tack, and she's got all 6 shots when she's firing.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad to be honest that she's limited right now to this function because, you talk to Kim and she's very normal, right? She's got great business
so down
ideas.
to earth.
And, she's creative.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because it's like it's what they. John, I know you can emphasize this. When they try to make artists accountants, right? They try to make us, so focused and consumed with money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude,
it's terrible.
Yeah, and it's tough too because
try and fit
really
you in the box.
Yeah. But
she'd be great to sit down and have like coffee or tea with, and she could solve, just help to put her input on some of the world's problems, and with our input, that would be an awesome show, as like a little tea party where you just sit around and we just. Correct all the dilemmas, the blockades, and right? Where you just everyone sips it, and no pressure.
We should do it. We should do it at the American Doll place in New York City. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or we just
and you do that, and just to show the normalcy in all this is that how each and every one of us, if we apply ourselves. And we come from true source and on the foundation of love, that our input and our intellect can actually count and possibly contribute to the end result of actually making humanity the happiest place in the world to be, heaven on earth. As above is below.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty
we can
good
really do this. We should even be doing this literally on a local basis, is that because just as much as we know Kim is actually inside of all of us. She is one of all of us because she's empowered us to be her, and then she comes from the same roots as us. So it's trying to do the equality of it, as in, it's like walking amongst with Jesus. You even with hanging out with Tui, you don't just, it's like, oh wow, this person's like a superstar. No, they're just like me and you, and they're just, kicking rocks as they walk down the street, just like us, And we can really, we just need to reach down and find the inner self, as much as Tui says, stop the separation and stop the illusion that everyone's on pedestals or of different levels, which I know that they are, but we've got to work together in unity to bring everyone to the same consciousness to where we can all speak in a forum that actually contributes to a better role of humanity for all of us, individually and as a collective.
Well, it's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because, right now you have people that, one of the things they're talking about, the Democrats are trying to or the deep state is really trying to, I hate to label that on Democrats, because I'm not anti-Democrat or pro-Republican, either one. I'm pro-people. I'm for the people, and however they identify themselves. But at the end of the day, you've got people that it's like 80% of the population is one major event away from basically not being able to, survive, right? They couldn't pay their bills. If one thing goes wrong, their car breaks down, their house burns down, right? And if you think about that, that's part of the reason why we can't get up and really fight, and have a say, because we're standing here in the midst of a battle where they have tanks and missiles and an air force, right? And we're down, in foxholes with spears. And it really, that's the big challenge. And that's why Kim, what she's doing is so important, right, to free that up. And she's constantly programming, and she's programming even now to, make that possible so that she can get money directly to the people. Because she said this to me today, she's like, what good is it if I get you money if you can't spend it, right? Because that's one of the aspects that people don't necessarily appreciate is that, you can have money in your account, and then if I can't, pay John for, the furniture he makes for me, like, what good is it? It's like I just have it, like, big deal. It's the same as having an SKR that you can't touch. And
absolutely. It's kind of like having a suspect QV, which is identically the same thing. That these people were bonded, and securities are created on their back their whole life, but they can't touch any of it. They know it was done. They know the fraud is there, but it's all been spent. It's all been locked up. It's all been stopped. But the true person who is actually entitled to value and worth in this world, the one that, were frauded upon in the original place, that's the American, not even the American people. That's humanity. That's literally like all the people in the world. We could be living in so much of a better abundance of fairness and equality, just based upon the fraud that has been committed, because it's been, like we say, it's all of us that make the world go round, not the ones that are actually controlling it, the elite, the dragon family, the cabal. There's such a small percentage to the actual energy that makes the world work. It's just the energy is underneath that illusion and the separation. And once we break out of that, man, we're just going to rock this world into a better place.
All right, man. All right, Kevin, stick around, dude. I'm gonna put you down. Hey, John, let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
So, because you follow Thomas. So Thomas was talking about the, this new frequency coming in, and basically changing the frequency of the planet. What do you think that means?
Little by little, I think it means if you do it all at once, it's just too much. It's too much. As much as we'd like to light switch the solution, I think it has a lot to do with, it is big corrections that we don't understand the full fallout of. Most of it is good, but at the same time, at my checkout at the grocery before this call, why did our software glitch up? Why couldn't I order materials from the hardware store webpage today? It just kept on choking. A lot of this, our current tech could be choking on the same thing that's kind of, in another case, helping us to, wake up a little bit. I hear people comment on different things in ways that maybe they wouldn't have before. But also to some of us that have a little more fuller awareness of, some of the deeper subjects, it really pulls on the heartstrings. I probably half of my days I feel like Tui on Friday or whatever day it was, where it's just it's nice to be able to help people with what they need immediately, but remodeling a bathroom is one thing. I know there's some big things out there to be working on. My priority number one right now is not necessarily the finest furniture. I didn't realize there's so much else that needs the same sort of diligence and repair, but and beyond repair, better design initially, from the ground up.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And some of that is, like I said, a holding pattern. As much as it feels awkward to be where I am doing what I am, some of that is, I went full bore, full throttle for 5 years there in New York, and as I was as a kid, just always full of energy. I've never felt this way before. Out of gas? Are you kidding me? So there's it's time to regroup and go through some of these. What does it mean, the new energies, the new frequencies? It's a huge mystery. But what lifts me up is looking out and seeing the vitality of somebody's lawn that's grown too long. It's just, you can't stop it. You can't. All they've done to try and wreck this place, and nature is so resilient, and we're a part of that. But on the book, the accounting, it's a weird thing to. Yeah. The accounting is a weird thing to balance right now. None of it makes sense.
No, and I'll tell you something. I agree that the glitches that you're seeing everywhere. I mean, Blog Talk is glitching right now, and this is a frequency and a cyber war, right? And the changes that Kim is making, in my area where, I'm just outside the city now. I mean, there's never a place that should not have cell service. Like I live right in the biggest city in the world. But everybody, like all of a sudden, like my phone will go from, like I'll have 4 bars and I haven't moved, and all of a sudden I'll have no service. It doesn't even make sense. And so sometimes I think that's the bad guys, targeting me, which in some cases it probably is. And then in other cases, I think Kim's making some kind of update to the system, right? Because I don't know exactly, where she's at. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's an exciting time. Lane, go ahead.
Can I say something about the frequency? Yeah, because I've noticed a bunch of things with the frequency changes, and one of a very popular thing that seems to be happening right now is that those who are vibrating at a higher frequency can no longer work for, let's call it demand, but, can no longer work for the system.
I love that you just referenced the man. It's the fingers of the man holding us down. That's right.
Cannot work for the man.
Go ahead.
But the thing is, we literally, physically, emotionally, mentally cannot work for a frequency that doesn't vibrate, that doesn't resonate. And, as a writer, I frequently peruse the, help wanted for writing, and literally there is nothing I could be capable of doing a lot of it, but there's nothing I can do. I cannot do it. I cannot sell. I cannot work for pharmaceuticals. I cannot work to promote a product to get people to buy something that they don't want. So it's like, and it's not just me, it's everyone I'm talking to literally can no longer, if they get a job, they lose it immediately, or it never happens. And I don't know how everyone's feeding themselves. But it just seems to be more and more prevalent.
I agree. And Thomas is always talking about, the long game, and he and I don't really, we don't fight about it or anything, but I'm like, no, man, we can't win the long game. They have too many pieces in place, right? Because, that's just how I feel, it's my opinion. And I understand what Thomas is saying too, because, in some sense, it's like they're trying to wait us out and start us out. But what they don't realize is that, we've been living this way for a long time. We've found joy and peace and harmony in other aspects of our life, so we're not so driven just by money like they are. Now, that being said, at some point, you have got to return humanity and give them the chance to thrive and to see what they can do. And that can't be done if we don't have equal resources to those who are oppressing us. And that equality has to take place. I remember Kim telling me this. She offered the bad guys, she said, look, I'll give you 10-1, right? And just give us this, just allow, and they wouldn't let her have anything, right? And that's just how they have been. And the reason why is because she knew that if you give, creative people who are innately motivated to help, assist, to create, to build. People naturally, the way we're made, we want to help other people. It's natural. It's the most natural thing in the world. I talk about this all the time. It's philoprogenitiveness, right? The natural love for your offspring. Now, they're trying to destroy that aspect of what it means to be human. Because if you take away our natural love for our offspring, you will not have people reproduce. Because why would you? If you had a baby and you're starving yourself, and then you have a baby, now you have another mouth to feed, right? In any way you describe that, a child would not be a benefit. The benefit is intrinsic. It is something that is so valuable that you can't fight it. It's your natural instinct. And what they're trying to do right now is perpetuate this absolutely idiotic, hateful, anti-human agenda to force people to just have no desire. I mean, no desire to have kids. They're trying to make it, birth rates right now in the United States are the lowest they've ever been in history, right?
Wow.
The lowest they've ever been, because they're trying to beat that natural desire out of us to have kids, right? And even in China, where in China it's they practice female infanticide for a long time, where families are only allowed to have one kid, and because they were only allowed to have one kid, if a female baby was born, back in the day when they didn't check beforehand, they'd kill the baby. It was normal. It was a normal practice, right? Because they alleged they were suffering from overpopulation. Well, now they're 51% male and 49% female, so there's not enough women around, right? It's out of balance. So which doesn't sound like much, but I guess it must be a big deal. Now they're telling people to have two kids, right, to basically continue to grow. And what I think that they're not talking about, and I'm dying to ask Thomas about this. I haven't got him on the phone about this, but I think they have actually reduced the population much more than they've let on. Because if birth rates are down, now it used to be 2 to 1. For every one time someone dies, 2 people will be born. But birth rates are down around the world, right? And they are literally using vaccines to cause infertility in women and men, I'm sure. But but this is all part of the Bill Gates movement, right? He's talked about it publicly, openly, about castrating people so they stop having more kids. And and I don't know anybody else who could get away with it, but because we value or we look at money as being so important, Bill Gates we think is a rock star, right? He's so important, but he's not important, right? He's important for another race or group of beings. Like, he's not for people. He's for killing people off, and he's trying to do it in a way that seems like he's helping. I mean, it is the most diabolically hateful thing I've ever seen. To pretend like I'm helping you, right? It's like flowers in the attic evil, right? Like, we're just keeping you locked in this place, pretending that it's for your best good, and we're poisoning you every day. That is what is happening in our country every day. I mean, it is disgusting. I mean, how could anybody justify things that need to stop today? I mean, right now, today, need to stop immediately. There needs to be military forces at every single water supply, because they talk about this all the time, that if there was a biological weapon released in the United States, it would be released in the water supply. Okay, so let's talk about that. What kind of biological weapons could be released? Could it be poison in our water, like fluoride? It's like, oh wait, you're not describing something that's going to happen. You're describing something that's already happening.
But
and
just to reinforce what you're saying, Tank. So the Lancet reported, that's that medical journal, reported in 2000, as of 2017, the worldwide birth rate of 4.7 per woman dropped to 2.4, and that was 2 years ago. And that's worldwide average. Yep.
Oh my gosh, really? I mean, that's a huge drop. Holy cow, I didn't know it was that steep. So, yeah. So we're right.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't even record things like the genocide taking place in Haiti, right? Genocide in various places, I'm sure, in Africa right now as we speak. They're trying to go after anything that is natural, right, and assault humanity. they're constantly in an effort to reduce humanity. So, you got to think now. The next step. This is what I just feel like I always have to repeat this, but that's what the global reset really is. It's resetting the population according to the Georgia Guidestones, right? And the Georgia Guidestones say, to maintain a reasonable population of 500 million people. Well, first of all, that's 90% of your population. At least the last numbers we heard, right? And I don't think the numbers are at 8 billion. I'll bet your population is down closer to 7 billion right now. I'll bet you. And I would love to get the stats on that. I'd have to ask Kim about that, see what they are, because she would have actual accurate numbers. So.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
I don't know.
Because
yeah, right.
The stats are so hard to trust anymore. Well, whose numbers are those?
Well, part of the climate change agenda has caused this whole, millennial crowd to not have babies in order to save the planet.
Right. The noble act of destroying.
Exactly. All part of social engineering.
Well, as one of the last surviving men, I'm assuming John as well, right? Because before they try to reassign us to some gender combination of attributes and alien and reptile thing that they want us to be, I really think that, as silly though this may sound, my son is brilliant, right? He's really great he's going to be a great producer, Elaine. He's always examining shows, right? And he loves really highly rated, shows. He'll go all the way back, like he's watching all the Seinfeld episodes now, right? And he always goes back and picks up throwback shows, right? That are like from when I was a kid and you were a kid, right? And you know what's amazing? Every time I watch one of these shows, I'm like, wow, you guys do the same thing over and over again. Every man is portrayed as a bumbling fat idiot, right? Who is, scared to speak up. Anytime you say a strong word or yell at your kids, there has to be a gentle moment where we just, they completely feminize them. Men are not allowed to be men. Then women are always portrayed. I mean, even in superhero movies now, they're doing away with kind of male superheroes, right? They're just trying to really focus on. Which, by the way, I love superhero movies. I think they're incredible what they're doing. So I don't want to make less of that, okay? But but they're trying to get rid of anything that is male, right? Anything that we would associate with being male. So we all get confused, right? So then my kids were in the car. I remember my sons, they're 12 years old, and we're in the car, and we pull up on this bus stop, and it says it's like some advertisement for. I'm not sure what the advertisement was actually for, but it was, it was promoting being gay, basically, which I don't think being who you are needs promotion personally. But the way it was phrased was shaming you for being straight, right? So I said to my sons in the car, I said, listen, you don't have to be ashamed to be heterosexual. And because they've been indoctrinated with all these different things, my sons were like, oh, what does that mean? What does heterosexual mean? Because they didn't even know what that meant. They knew all these other. They'd explained to me what transgender was and all these other things, but they didn't know what it meant to be heterosexual. I'm like, and then when I said something, they're like, oh no, wait, oh sorry, Daddy, we know, right? But it's become that obscure that they don't even know what it means, And I mean that's just part of the plan. And as my son watches these old shows, I just see it over and over and over again, right? They're mocking, everything about being a man. They portray us as just, walking around trying to score a girl, right? There's no honor in being a man. Once we get married, we're completely impotent. It's all a joke. All that. It's just such a sad state of affairs. having respectful marriages and a loving relationship, all those things are out the window. There's nothing that portrays that. Nothing.
Tank, do you know that? I mean, I'm sure you know this, and probably know way more than this. But so feminism, which is just one of the many avenues of social engineering, was begun by the Tavistock Institute, obviously, as so many of the programs are. And that in itself was an offshoot of Project Paperclip. But feminism was originally invented for what? For what reason? I mean, I have the answer if you want to guess.
I thought it was to empower women, but I'm sure it's to, emasculate men. You tell me.
Well, for sure, those are just benefits, to them. That's their,
Right,
you know how they love to have multiple
Can I guess?
avenues. Yes, please, John.
Can I guess? To increase the workforce and get women out of the house and more taxes.
Ding, 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 ding. Please give that man a sugar.
Wow, really?
You got it.
Really?
So
and are we any better off? Can you pay down your bills on the halfway through the month? Nope.
No, because what happened is, so it was designed not just to double the tax base, but to get women out, as John just said, to get women out of the household, to break down the unit further. Now, the family unit further. This has all been by design, one step at a time. Previous to that, what was the instrument, John, I bet you know, what was the instrument used to get everyone off their community doorstep, so to speak, and move into the living room where they became isolated? What was that?
Oh, sure. Radio then television.
Exactly. All by design. So if you trace it through the generations, you can see how families and communities were broken down bit by bit by bit. Now we're down to, kids who are completely entranced by their device in their hand, and there's nothing. There's no kind of, human interaction whatsoever.
And can I add an extension to that?
Yeah, please.
Just briefly, this is good. Gets into my boss. He I'll keep the names out of it, but works for a local corporation, not flag house here or flag store here, but the branch here. And him and all his comrades, they just work from home. And occasionally pickup trucks pass in the street, and they're like, "Hey, I haven't seen you for a month." "Yeah, man, I kind of miss it. It's like I don't even know the guys anymore." "Yeah, and these new people, I've never even met them." "Well, I guess it's just the cost of working from home. It's kind of cool, but it kind of sucks, And these guys are lonely, just flat out. These guys are lonely.
Yeah.
There's
no human connection. Go ahead.
So that is a classic technique of terrorists, right, and mind control designed by the CIA. They would actually use this as a methodology, right? You isolate someone. There is nothing more easy, right, or more just manipulative, right, than getting someone by themselves, away from the group, away from any comfort or security or different perspectives, right? You isolate them, and then you can feed them whatever you want, right? And then if something goes wrong, right, and they want to take that person out, say for example, right, they could have something go wrong and just blame that person. They trace it back to their computer. Now they're the scapegoat, and they don't even have anyone to defend them, right? To say no, that's not what happened. It's I know the CIA did this with a lot of in Iraq. It's like some of the stuff came out publicly, right? They would just isolate them, and people that were just civilians. They weren't even anything, just trying to get information. But for the most part, they were just experimenting the same way they did during World War II. They were experimenting with different techniques, different torture techniques to see what worked. And then really in the society we live in is as a large result of that experimentation that was done during World War II, because that's where they learned. Like, oh, we can do it this way. We can use fluoride this way. We can broadcast in frequencies, and then they're trying to figure out how to create a massive scale of mind control. And North Korea was exactly that. North Korea was a mind control experiment. That's why, and to be honest, so was the United States. So, but North Korea, they really went hard on communism, and the United States, I guess it was, I don't know if it was capitalism or socialism at this point, but you can see why Donald Trump, is connected with Kim Jong-un, right? It's like, he just went there and said, hey, Kim, like, let's overcome these guys. Like, you don't have to do this, It's not what you. That's why, like, he talks about him with such, so affectionately. Like, and honestly, could anyone really be afraid of Kim Jong-un? I mean, like, the guy looks like a big teddy bear. I mean, like, he's not the most intimidating dictator type figure, right? So they keep doing things. Like, even the other day when that missile went off, like, Kim Jong-un, they interviewed him, like, he didn't even know till he got there they were going to do that. So when they did it, it was normal, but they did it behind his back. That's why Trump didn't freak out, appropriately, by the way. Meanwhile, right. You've got Obama and Pelosi and Feinstein, and John Kerry, who are actively negotiating a new war with Iran, and they're isolating this prime minister in Iran, making it look like President Trump is this warmongering, animal. Meanwhile, Trump's like, hey, just come talk to me. We'll work it out. I'll give you a better deal so you guys aren't in such a bad situation. But everybody's so used to these guys having control, right? We just need to eliminate them. And at some point, doesn't it get to be kind of ridiculous? Like, John, I know you said, like, piece by piece. But, honestly, if we keep going piece by piece, think about what's happening. As you take one brick out from the wall, they're literally have enough time to make a new brick and put a new one in by the time you go back take another one out. Yeah. Because they've got all these pieces in control. At some point, there has to be a collapse that is catastrophic. And I can't believe it hasn't happened really with banking because they have no money. They have no control. But people are they worship these guys as gods. Yeah. They love them. It's like, what part do you love? The abuse. It's Stockholm syndrome on a massive scale.
Yeah. And cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance plays a big factor because when you actually take the time to explain something to somebody, like, well, the FDIC can't really insure everyone's money if the banks fail, and it's only insured up to $250,000 per account, and then you get the wide-eyed stare. And then they say, oh, you're right. And then what do? Continue to put their money in the bank?
Yeah, they made it illegal. And Thomas talked about this, that, Kim brought in $2 billion into our accounts for back in September, right, for project funding. And they turned around, and right as that happened, they made it illegal for our accounts to have that much money in them, right? And illegal according to bank rules, right? And it's just so interesting. It's like, it blows my mind that Steve Mediocrity Mnuchin is still in a place to say anything. How is this weaselly little useless human being who, Thomas was talking about, like, releasing the tapes of him at these parties, these sex parties he organized, right, where these young girls would be paraded in front of these, all these other, high so-called elite pedophiles, right, which I don't know how you could be both. I don't know how you could be elite at anything and be a pedophile, right? But whatever. So the evil empire, they're all there. And Steve Mnuchin is on tape with a 13-year-old girl taking her in, and obviously she's not a willing participant. She's 13 years old. She doesn't know what's going on. She probably wants to be a model, and like, her parents sold her out. And then they took that tape to his wife, and that's why she left him. Which, who knows if that held up either. But at the end of the day, it's like, he's trying to express his masculinity, I guess, is what he's trying to do now, and really assert himself as a tough guy. Man, you are in the wrong place as far as I'm concerned. How on earth can anybody show that man any kind of damn respect? Get that guy out of there. The Rothschild, he's a Rothschild appointee. Fire them too. Why can they appoint anybody? Who are they? They're nobody. They don't even have a contract that is valid anymore. And that's the thing that drives me crazy right now. Is like, why are we still respecting things based on what? Title and reputation? Well, according to your title, you don't have one. And your reputation is you have tried to enslave and kill humanity on a massive scale. But you had money. Like, so what? So what? We need to get rid of all of these people at the same time, in the same day. We need to stop talking about it in the media and just go be about it. You know, the government, like right now, the Pentagon is supposed to be on our side, and we can't clear a damn transfer? Are you kidding me? What the hell is the Pentagon doing? I mean, what are they doing? You know, Patrick Shanahan, the new head of the Department of Defense, you know what? Get on the job, man. Get people in those banks. Y'all got guns? Use them. Get in that place and get people there in position to make sure that they do not mess with the money. And keep them there. Matter of fact, train them to do the job and fire the people that are there. Like, it's ridiculous. Look, and I know that sounds like, oh, my gosh, that's too aggressive. Are you kidding me? You pack of sissies. All those cowards out there who are afraid to stand up to these people. You got one woman who's taken down their whole operation by herself. You ought to be embarrassed by that. Not talking about, you ought to be looking to prove yourself to her, not to those people. Disgusted with these people, all of them. We got 16,000 kids dying every day. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. I would suggest that they're too cowardly to humiliate themselves. Not so much. I mean, the boys will go in there and take whatever orders. You know, especially if they had full information. You know, they'd probably do it without orders. If people knew, they'd be out in the streets. But they're just at a certain link in the chain. You know, the compartmentalization. So many people, especially I can only imagine the elites, extremely isolated. I saw some of their fashion shows in person, and it's just the weirdest, gloomy nonsense, you know, woe is me, weird stuff. And these people are isolated, and especially in that chain of command. And if you're compromised, if somebody's got dirt on you, and you don't know your way out of this minefield, I mean, if you're not willing to do the right thing, which might mean losing everything, then you're just going to go the only way you know, and that's with the flow that's always been the flow. And, you know, so at a certain point, the human ego is the blockage. And you know, it's some of the stuff that you know, it's where your religions come from. It's some of the better details spiritually Thomas has spoken on. And the core of it really is that we have, there's more than just this money insanity. I mean, look at your whole life in a blink of an eye sort of moment, and what are you really willing to do? And maybe a few of them can hear me now, because like that's what it's bigger than these ridiculous 80, 90 years. Your moves are important. So do the right one finally. If you end up, you know, homeless, going from president to homeless, who cares? You're going to have a lot more friends. Like, teamwork is what we need. This isolation is driving everybody insane. We don't even have fresh food outside. I mean, Fiji is going to go through this a lot easier than the United States, a lot easier than New York. I mean, there's just the basics are so scarce for artificial reasons, of course. But, like, we need to get down to brass tacks on a lot of stuff. And, you know, when you've got a mansion in the country and you're just like, but if I do that, I won't be able to. Who cares? Liquidate it. Who cares? Get rid of it. Back to basics. What do you really need?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not. I don't want to go take everything back to you know, huts and things like that per se, because the way I feel about it is this: the fact that they have had money, we should have money. The fact that they have had all these things, we can do that too. And there is a way to take all the existing things that are valuable and put them to work for the right reason. That's possible.
Right.
We don't need to just.
And I mentioned just a moment. I mentioned that mansion not doing anything. It's only a stress. It's not actually a tool.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but But even with that, now if it is stressful, that's one thing, but it doesn't have to be. These things don't have to. What they have been created is because of the world has been created around it. I'm not one to make people materialistic because they like nice things. There's nothing wrong with nice things. What's actually a problem is why do we make BS things? Why do we have garbage? Why do we even make those things? Like you're talking about, man, the standard of quality. You know what? In reality, man, to buy a piece of your furniture, it's going to last forever, right? And not only that, but it's going to be a staple, right? It's going to be designed. It's going to be something that, you're going to look at in 50 years and be like, oh, my gosh, man, look at this thing. It's still amazing, right?
Everybody likes to say one of a kind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But keep going. Yeah.
That's all right. But that's the truth. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. And the fact that they've been allowed to just devour the history of our planet, these amazing precious artifacts all over the place that they have just taken and hidden away, and known about all the ways that you can, or bombed, right, just destroyed completely, all the amazing qualities of this, sacred architecture, and the way these things can be used. Yeah. That's what happened then. We got rid of all the beautiful things, right, and now we just see glimpses of them to even know that they existed. But we shouldn't do that. We should preserve these things. We should take them and put them to work the way they should be used for the people. And people should have access to these things. And it shouldn't be impossible for people to have a nice car or to have, high-quality clothes or a nice home. There's nothing wrong with those things. That's not what causes isolation. What causes isolation is ignorance. We have a mass spreading of ignorance everywhere. People don't know who they are. They don't know where they came from. They don't know why they're here. So they spend their whole life pursuing the goals that someone else told them were essential for them to thrive. They have been indoctrinated since they were born with television, with false doctrines created by religions, by false information given to their parents that they think is real. Generation after generation, we've been infused with lies. And then just to turn around and say, no, we're just going to do it. No, let's not do away with it. Let's look at it for what it is. Let's be artists about it. Let's take an artist stance. And instead of ignoring the beauty and the ugliness of the whole thing, let's look at it and let's examine it and let's look at it for what it is and bring it to life and make it used and worked for the people. To be used and worked for. No, that's not right. To use it and make it work for the people, okay? So that's where we're at. That's the reality of what we should be doing. We don't need to throw away the baby with the bathwater, right? There is value that exists now. There is structures in place that are valuable, but they're not owned by the right people. So everything's overpriced.
Yeah.
People are underpaid, and the goods are overpriced, and that's how you create this. There's been 800% inflation, since 1958, right? At least just here in the United States, and it's probably much more. But there's no value, right? But we can get back to something that is holistic and natural. But you know what? Everybody's different. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to have different needs. Everybody's going to have to really express who they are. We don't want to go back to a survivalist mentality where we're following around, herds of buffalo. We need to get to a place where people are able to thrive and access who they really are. The unlimited potential that exists in every human experience. Every human being has this whole universe in them able to just explode. And that's what we should be fostering. The explosion, the exploding expression of human ingenuity and creativity. Tapping into the spirit that is humanity and seeing what is possible. That is what we can do. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that's what we are charged to do. I don't think that's an option. I think that is the call to action for everybody right now in this time in history. And everybody out there in the military and everybody else who is fighting this fight. Oh, that was an accident. Everybody out there fighting this fight, really connect with what you can do. Connect with the reality of who you want to be, and then find a way to be that. Now, right now we're talking about the trust and bringing these funds out and really bringing everything to a place where we can thrive as humanity, and that is what we have to focus on, because all the change all the possibility, all of that exists in us. And you know what? And it's outside of us too. But even what we think is us, it's limited. We look at this body and we think this is what we are. But we're this, and we're the entire Taurus energy field that we connect to around us, and we create every moment of the day. We are not limited by anything except our own expectations, our own dreams, our own imagination. Now is the time to bring that to life. Now is the time when we're able to change the world. And this is the only chance you get, because this is the one moment where everything is built up to right now. So if there's going to be a difference, it's going to come from the people. And that comes from us standing together on all levels of the government, the military, the corporations, everyone. The change comes from us. So please, don't back down, don't give up, be encouraged, no retreat, no surrender. John and Elaine, thanks so much for hanging with me. You guys have a nice day.
Thank you, Tank.
Thank you, Tank.